GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi. It was a fun pod today. We got blue chip, red chips, running backs, the Aiyuk discussion, Philadelphia Eagles with Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. A lot of fun topics that we dove into in the GM Shuffle podcast. As we're rolling along, we're back to our routine, Michael. We got games on Thursdays. We can react to everything on Mondays. We are back, man.
We are back. I love it. Yeah, you got Thomas Gable out there visiting. You know, we got all that. We have the Borgata that we used to be a part of in the past. We would go there and listen to him. We'll get the reports from all the Giant fans that kind of, in his book, the Eagle fans have already booked their Super Bowl tickets, so we don't have to worry about that as much. But other than that, it's a great time of the year. I mean, this is the best. We're getting ready for football. And we're getting for, to see how much of the offseason can parlay itself into the regular season in terms of the planning that has gone into it.
100%. The road to New Orleans starts now. Can you imagine those Eagles fans taking over Bourbon Street? That'd be a hell of a sight to see, wouldn't it? I think that's going to be.
They've been down there before. They lost to the Raiders down there in the Super Bowl with Dick Vermeil. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Yes. So. Yeah, I mean, that's where everybody's headed, to Bourbon Street. Hopefully you and I are going there too, Femi.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Might have to send a couple emails. Before we want to send off our number 2, though, with what's on Michael's mind. And we talked about how we're back, games are back. What in particular, though, was on your mind as we begin preseason week number 1?
Well, I mean, this is the first year that Bill Belichick won't be involved in the NFL. And this will be the first time that Gillette Stadium, as it's been called ever since the first time it was built, where Schaefer Stadium used to be, right? And it was old Foxborough Stadium. I remember when it was Schaefer Stadium with the blank snares. I remember we played when I was at the 49ers in '86. We played a game there, a hard game. We won late in the game. We won the game late, and it was tremendous. And so, that stadium had nothing but bleacher seats. It was like a big high school field out in the middle of nowhere. And now that stadium, Gillette, is grown. There's a mall around it. And this will be the first time on the Patriots sideline in over 20 years where Coach Belichick's not going to be roaming. And Gerard Mayo comes in and takes over a team with a huge coaching staff, over 20 people. Jonathan Kraft, the owner's son, is intimately involved in the team, just as so is Robin Glazer, the vice president of football operations, or whatever the title is. So a lot of people have come in. A lot of people have claimed they could do a job just as good as Belichick could do. A lot of people believed he had nothing to do with the winning of the 6 Super Bowls, if you just watch the documentary produced by the Crafts. So I'm excited to watch the Patriots season begin. I think they're going to be the number 1 team in Survivor. Everybody's going to play against them. They have no tackles. I think it's a poorly constructed roster, and I think they're going to find out as they embark, as the ship leaves port tonight at 7:00 in Foxborough, that life's going to be a lot harder without the greatest coach of all time.
Yeah, it's a new era in Foxborough with Gerard Mayo now as the head coach. The Patriots tonight, 6.5-point favorites against the Carolina Panthers, total sitting at 35. We haven't spoken specifically about Drake May and what we should be looking for tonight. And I know you talked about this on our podcast and a little bit earlier in hour number 1 as well, is that when we saw CJ Stroud in this very game, it was Texans at the Patriots, his first pass, I believe it was an interception, and it looked a little bit shaky. I guess what should we be looking for from Drake May, whether good or bad, and how we evaluate him in his rookie season as he takes his first snaps in an NFL game?
Well, I think to me, we should see about his poise and his confidence. I mean, one of the things I think when you watch Hard Knocks this week, Nick Saban makes an appearance and he talks to Matt Eberflus about Peyton Manning's 38 interceptions. And about how none of them bothered him as a rookie, that he was able to get over them. I mean, that's more than 2 a game he's throwing, and yet it didn't bother him. And so he came back, he learned from every single mistake. And I think that's the key. You can't get deterred. You're not going to come out here. We're not producing a Hollywood movie here. It's not going to be perfect. You're not going to go out there and throw for 300 yards. It's going to be ups and downs, and you're going to battle your way through it. But I think for the young quarterbacks, you want to see their poise. You want to see their confidence that they know they've got it. You don't want to see that stare. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just look at some of Zach Wilson's facial pictures when he was playing football. Like, that's not the look you want. Like, there's a certain look, and it ain't that. So to me, that's what you want to see tonight out of Drake May. I'm not looking at how many passes he completes. I'm looking at his command, because the rest of the team around him isn't very good. But he can be good within his own setting we'll see. You know, they're all excited about Joe Milton.
Yeah.
Look, you and I have both watched Joe Milton play at the University of Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
He was at the University of Michigan. They thought he was an incredible athlete with an incredible arm, but couldn't play the quarterback position the way they needed it at Michigan. We'll see if he can do that at New England. He's the talk of their camp because he throws it the farthest and he's got the greatest arm and all that. But there's more to that playing quarterback than just throwing.
Yeah, Joe Milton's the starting quarterback on the off-the-bus team. You want that guy coming off of the bus. It looks pretty good. I don't know if he should be playing the NFL. Maybe he should be in Paris at the Olympics doing something over there because he is one hell of an athlete. And I'm excited to see him play later on tonight there, but we'll see if he's kind of progressed as a passer, as an actual quarterback later on tonight because at Tennessee, it didn't look good. And that was an offense that's pretty prolific, and he started playing at quarterback, and it was much to be desired. You mentioned Nick Saban, though, on Hard Knocks. Bears training camp Hard Knocks is underway. I watched it last night before I went to sleep, and I did find this clip from Nick Saban really interesting. It's what you talked about managing the expectations for their first overall selection, Caleb Williams.
Here's my theory on why NFL quarterbacks fail at such a dramatic rate. Mm-hmm. To me, expectations are a killer. This kid's got so much media, so much hype, so much expectation on doing well. And he has to develop so quickly to meet the expectations that everybody has for him, it's almost impossible. The expectations are a killer, but yet, to use your word, development is the key for him.
That sound obviously courtesy of HBO and their Hard Knocks with the Chicago Bears. But I could have listened to Saban for the entire episode. And I was telling our producer, Elliot, before we got to going with the show, I was like, his parts were I thought it was the best part of the entire episode. Just that knowledge that he has. And he used the line that you say all the time that, like, hey, like, it's human nature to want to be average. Like, that's the human nature. Like, a lot of the stuff that we've talked about on the GM Shuffle, Saban was discussing it yesterday when he was talking to Matt Eberflus in the first episode of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, I mean, and look, what he's saying is, you know, he could be the grumpy old man on the lawn, which I am too. But let's be clear. To win a championship, you got to be the grumpy old man on the lawn. You got to be able to do boring. You got to do it every single day, and you got to embrace it. And this notion that we have permeating throughout our country today about, well, it's not that hard. We don't have to work that hard to win a championship. That's nonsense. I mean, we talked about this on the podcast, and I think it's worth mentioning. Andy Reid has a very tough training camp. It's well known. Everybody around the league knows, you know, Andy Reid has a tough camp. Of course he does. He's a football coach. He's a football coach. Andy Reid plays his quarterbacks in the preseason. Of course he does. He's a football coach. He knows what championships teams need. If I were Dave Canales and I'm seeing that Patrick Mahomes is playing in a preseason game with Andy Reid, a two-time Super Bowl champion, three-time Super Bowl champion, but two in a row, he's playing his guy. Why aren't I playing my guy? Right? Yep. I mean, let's give Zach Taylor, and I'm hard on Zach Taylor as a head coach because I think Zach Taylor always takes the path of least resistance. But let's give him credit here because he's going to play Burrow this summer because he knows he started the 2 years 0-2, 0-2. I think a lot of people are going to fall trap into that New England game, taking the points because New England's no good. But Cincy might be a different team opening day than they've ever been in the past because of how they're approaching training camp. So be aware of that. I think that's important. So for me, when your opponent does something that's different than what you're doing, when he's zigging and you're zagging, something's wrong and you should change it.
Yeah, especially when it's an organization that has become the standard in the National Football League. Like the Kansas City Chiefs are the gold standard. They have the bragging rights. They won the 3 Super Bowls. And Mahomes, like you mentioned, he's going to play the quarter. Josh Allen's going to play the quarter for Buffalo. Joe Burrow's going to play. Jordan Love. And when I was thinking about that, I was thinking about, wow, they know what the assignment is. Because if you look at the schedule, especially the weeks 1 and 2 in the regular season, there are some massive games that are going to have playoff seeding implications in the AFC because Kansas City starts week 1 hosting Baltimore, week 2 hosting Cincinnati. Like right then and there, they can go ahead and grab some of these tiebreakers that always come up when we're talking about who's going to be the 1 seed, who's going to be the 2 seed in December and January. These games in September, they count just as much of those games around Christmas time. So like they know, like Buffalo, they have at Miami week 2. Who knows? That kind of tiebreaker could decide who wins the division. Like these games are so important to where you don't have time to kind of dilly-dally around and, you know what, we'll just go ahead and ascend in November and December. You got to hit the ground running, especially with the way the schedule has been sequenced in the AFC.
Yeah, I think they've learned that, right, Femi? I think, to me, they've started slow. The team hasn't really been in great shape. Now, and granted, his theory behind it, Zach Taylor, his theory was, I'm going to peak at the right time. He did. Yeah. I mean, they got very fortunate. Remember that Tennessee game? I mean, that Super Bowl run that they had was a lot to do with the field goal kicker, McPherson, and not making mistakes on their defense. Really, if you go back and watch those games, they beat Tennessee. Tennessee turned the ball over, and McPherson made he took some horrendously bad sacks, but the reality of it was they were able to make the field goals after he took the sacks and won games that probably they shouldn't have won. So I think, to me, at least give Zach Taylor credit. He's learning from that. Last year was not good to start the game. Remember 2 years ago, Pittsburgh comes into town and with Mitchell Trubisky playing quarterback and wins the game.
Yeah, that Tennessee game, the AFC divisional round where Joe Burrow was sacked 9 times. Ryan Tannehill just happened to throw 3 interceptions, which I'll never forget since I laid the points to the Titans in that spot. All right, we'll keep it going. The conversation rolling along on the other side. It's the Lombardi Line.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Femi Abebefe, on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Do you disagree with these takes?
No way.
No way.
Or do you approve?
Oh, no doubts. No doubt in my mind.
No diggity, no doubt. It's time to ask Michael Lombardi, no way or no doubt.
All right, welcome back to the Lombardi Line. You know, it's time for No Way or No Doubt. It's simple. We got some NFL headlines, some NFL takes. We'll ask Michael, no way or no doubt, starting with the San Francisco 49ers and their all-pro wide receiver, Brandon Aiyuk. Michael, the 49ers are the rightful favorite in the NFC with or without Brandon Aiyuk.
No way. I think it's hard to bounce back as a team. I think it's challenging to go to the Super Bowl and lose. I lived there before, and I think there's been a lot of distractions within their camp. And this is going to require Kyle to have his best season as a head coach. It's going to require Nick Sorensen, their first-time defensive coordinator, to have a great year. And it's going to require health of every player on their team. They need to get Trent Williams in camp. Their offensive line is not good enough where it is right now. So I think that's going to be the thing. I don't think they're the best team right now on paper, because I think Detroit's really improved. We'll see them, how they go tonight defensively, what they look like. They're much improved in terms of the talent they brought in. I think that's certainly going to be an issue. I think the Rams will be a better team once they get everybody healthy. Seattle could be a surprise team. But I think, to me, Buffalo's still a good team. Kansas City's a good team. There's so many good teams that come back. When you look at San Francisco in the NFC, I think Philly would be, to me, based on paper, would be the team that I would say is slightly ahead of San Francisco right now. And I'm not being influenced, Femi, by the Philadelphia fan base here. I'm not John Clark over here just trying to tell everything's going to be okay.
John Clark catching strays here on the Lombardi Line.
I always say to John every time he interviews me, John, if you just want me to tell you the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl, I'll be happy to do that. Now, if that's what you want to hear, I'll tell you.
He's got to pander to his audience. That's what he's a smart man.
Yeah, I'm telling you what, there's no more loyal fan than John. John is tremendous. He loves the team. There's nobody happier. No one happier when he reports on the team.
He does a good job covering the Philadelphia Eagles. Speaking of those Philadelphia Eagles, our friends at the Worldwide Leader did a nice expose on the 2023 regular season, why it went off the rails, and it stems behind a reported fracture between head coach Nick Sirianni and quarterback Jalen Hurts. So, Michael, the Eagles fans should be worried about the strain between the head coach and QB1. No way or no doubt.
I think there's no doubt they should be. I think because here's the issue, right? The issue was Sirianni wanted to stay. Why change? Why not stay on what we did? A.J. Brown averaged 17 yards per catch. We saw Devontae Smith average a high 13. We moved the football. We had 204 points in the second quarter. Why would we change? Let's keep doing what we do. We still have the tush push. We'll get first downs in 4 plays, no problem. They changed. They went away from the RPO game. They went away from the play action pass game. All of a sudden, they started turning the ball over. The quarterback got hurt. And so there's the disconnect. The quarterback wants to prove that he can throw the ball from the pocket, which is admirable of him. And they're trying to get back. So what the Eagles did, instead of making radical changes, they just said, okay, Kellen Moore, here you go. But if there's any stumbling, it's going to be an issue down the road. It's going to be a problem.
Yeah, no, the Philadelphia Eagles, I mean, a big expectation, 6-1 to win the NFC. They're now the clear favorite to win the NFC East, -110. They've surpassed the defending division champion Dallas Cowboys. But they got to figure this hurts more relationship. That's the big thing that I want to see and how that works out. Maybe we'll get a glimpse to see it a little bit in the preseason. Speaking of the preseason, Michael, NFL preseason games are worthless to your regular season handicapping. No way or no doubt.
No way. No way. I mean, I think they're really important. And the more I do this will be my 5th year at VSiN. The more I do it, the more I write about it for VSiN Online, the more we talk about it in our wonderful betting guides. And I think people should really subscribe. I think Bill A.D.'s crazy to offer the 3-year subscription that he's offering. But, God bless him, he's doing it. It's tremendous. It's great value. You learn a lot about different sport. You're tuned into everything when you do that. But I think, to me, you need to find certain things out. I've said this for as many years as I've been here. You don't evaluate the whole team. You evaluate sections of the team. Is tonight, what's the tackle situation for New England look like? And even if the guys that are playing aren't going to be on the team, if they're not playing well, that tells you they're really in trouble, right? Mm-hmm. And then, like, for the Giants, what do they look like defensively? How are they going to play scheme-wise? What's their corner situation? Can they play man? Let's take the opening drive of the Bears game versus the Houston Texans, right? It was a cover 3 game. It was a cover 2 game and a cover 1. And every throw that Davis Mills made, 3rd and 5, they played 3. Easy throw, bang it to this Weiss stick. 3rd and 5, they're playing man. Okay, throwing out. It was easy. So you can't go by the results. You have to kind of go by what you're seeing and the feel of the game, and it's really important.
100%. Full agreement. And with that being said, Michael, every NFL team should play their starters at some point in the 3-week preseason. No way or no doubt.
Yeah, I definitely think you should play those guys. I don't think there's any doubt young players need to play. I think the speed of the game is what captures your attention immediately when you go from pro football to college, when you go from college to pro. If you don't do that, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think we said it in the last segment. Mahomes is playing preseason. Josh Allen's playing preseason. Burrow is. You just need to feel game speed. I know that they have all these joint practices, which I've never attended a joint practice. It sounds like they get a lot of work done, but it's still a practice. There's no replicating game speed. I don't care what they say. You just do not replicate when the lights are on and it's actual. I can hit the quarterback. The quarterback feels that sense of I can be hit. You don't do that in a joint practice. So I think everybody should get out there and get some game speed to hit the ground running for week 1. Speaking of quarterback competitions, Michael, because we have those going on in training camp in the preseason, especially with the silver and black, the Las Vegas Raiders. Neither Aiden O'Connell nor Gardner Minshew should be a starting QB in the NFL, no way or no doubt.
No doubt. I mean, look, I think that's clear, right? I think, to me, greatness always raises its level. It always finds itself. I've been a Gardner Minshew fan. When he was being available for a trade and the Eagles got him for basically nothing, I was all for it. But Gardner Minshew is a middle reliever. He's a backup quarterback. He's not a starter. And same thing with Aiden O'Connell. I don't mean this disrespectful to the young man, but he doesn't have enough. He struggles when the game moves too fast. He's not an elite athlete. His lower body isn't elite. There's a lot of things to like about Aiden. There's a lot of things not to like. The Raiders don't have a quarterback. I don't see who in that building said, let's sign Gardner Minshew and this will solve our problems. If you sign Gardner Minshew and draft Anthony Richardson, I get that. You make sense with that.
Yep.
But if you sign Gardner Minshew and pay him $15 million and then don't draft or even make an attempt to get a quarterback, you got problems.
Does Ryan Tannehill?
The funny thing is, too, Femi, is I watched John Schneider out when Pete Carroll and those two guys first got out to Seattle. They became quarterback obsessed. You know, they trade for Charlie Whitehurst. They signed Matt Flynn in free agency. They draft Russell Wilson. I mean, they just became obsessed, right?
Yep.
I don't see that out of the Raiders. I think the Raiders think they're really good. And I think they have this perception because of their coach that because they have their swagger back, everything's going to be okay. Well, that ends itself after last year.
Yeah.
You know, now you're the full-time coach. You're not the substitute teacher anymore.
Yep. 2024 is a new year, and like what you did last year doesn't necessarily carry over to this upcoming season. Why don't they take a look at someone like a Ryan Tannehill? Is he done playing? Does he not want to play anymore? I mean, he's better than Minshew and O'Connell.
I mean, look, I think Ryan Tannehill has probably watched the Raider tape and say, look, I've taken a beating from the Tennessee offensive line. Do I want to take another beating? I mean, do I want to take another beating? Oh, I mean, look, everybody, I just did a podcast, and we were talking about the Giants. I mean, the Giants' offensive line right now is Van Note and Illuminor. The Raider line, that wasn't good enough.
Yeah. I'll tell Ryan Tannehill there's no state income tax out here in Nevada. It's pretty nice, but I guess getting hit is worse, and he doesn't want to do that. Last one here. Jim Harbaugh's continued troubles with the NCAA will impact him during his first year as Los Angeles Chargers head coach. No way or no doubt.
No way. Nobody cares. The only person who cares is Paul Feinbaum. I mean, that's the only guy who cares. Who else cares? Seriously. You think anybody cares?
No.
You know? I mean, like, nobody cares about it. Feinbaum's the only one who cares because it's a story for his show. It's ridiculous. It makes no impact at all. And Jim's come out very clearly and said what he said, and everybody knows the NC2A is ridiculous in terms of what they decide and what they don't decide. So no way.
Yeah, the national championship was won. The story is done. Like nobody cares. Like I'm tapped out on this story. Like it's just like we've reached the end on that story. That is no way or no doubt here on the Thursday of the Lombardi Line. I think it's interesting what you said about the San Francisco 49ers about having to get back up to that mountain after losing the Super Bowl. What's the number one reason why we see the Super Bowl losers tend to have that hangover the following year?
Distractions.
Meet the 49ers.
I mean, that's what it is. It's what Nick Saban was talking about with it's expectations and distractions. You get away from the process. You get away from what you do good. And then everybody has a reason why you're not winning, and yet that's not the reason. Look, they can win without Aiyuk. They've done that before. But they've got to change what they do. They can't win without Trent Williams.
Yeah, got to get him done. He's right now holding out. Mike Palm joins us next here on the Lombardi Line.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Femi Abebefe, on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back. This is the Lombardi Line here on VSiN. Femi Abebefe, Michael Lombardi out in the great state of New Jersey, and joining us in studio here at Circa, it's the one and only Mike Palm, the VP of Operations at the Circa Resort and Casino. Mike, big weekend here on property. We got Bet Bash going on. People signing up for the contest, Circa Million, Circa Survivor. How's everything going? I know you're hosting a panel. How we doing?
Well, my panel is
your
the
sign-up
football
weekend.
preview.
Sorry,
sign-up weekend. I am hosting the second annual Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Again on Friday night. Michael's good friend Thomas Gable is here.
He stopped by.
He stopped by to help judge the debate yesterday on Sharp Money. And almost a clean sweep for me over Dustin. So I went on overall points, but Michael's good. Tom Gable's such a nice man.
Yes.
He's here. Richie Baccelleri from Circa Sports is getting inducted. He's really here for Richie's induction, so he's here all week until Saturday. Just a lot of people, the who's who of the betting world, are here this week. A lot of Spanky did a good job of coordinating a lot of activities. They had a poker tournament at the Golden Nugget. They had a golf outing. They're doing a scavenger hunt again, I believe, this morning. They had the networking yesterday, some of the seminars yesterday, more seminars today, and then the different panel discussions are tomorrow ahead of the banquet, which starts 7 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow evening.
And where is the banquet? And if you get into the Better Hall of Fame, did you get one of those statues up there at the Legacy Room?
No statue. There's a plaque here and a video that plays on that Sports Gambling Hall of Fame that's carved out in the book here. So the formula is always 5 living, 5 past. each year, so that they again followed the formula. And then once you get elected, you serve on the board that then votes for folks to get in. Nick Bogdanovich, also of Circa Sports, being inducted this year. So it'll be great. Billy Walters is actually the one presenting a couple of the folks that are getting inducted. He, of course, was in the inaugural class. Vic Salerno presented Roxy Roxborough last year, and now Roxy Roxborough is presenting Vic Salerno. I have to say, Roxy, a lot of travel this week. I mean, he won't have to worry now. His German team got eliminated by France, but he did a great job on the sidelines getting them at least to the medal round.
That's a good one. I like that. This is the Lombardi Line, and Michael Lombardi, obviously a very big student of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He wrote Football Done Right, getting things right about the Pro Football Hall of Fame, setting a criteria. What is the criteria for the Sports Betting Hall of Fame? Like, how do we go about electing who's going to go into the new class?
I think it's that you made a difference, a positive difference within the industry, whether it was as a professional bettor, whether it was as a bookmaker, whether as a regulator or a member of the media. You made a positive impact. There's a mission statement there. And Spanky and Matt Metcalf played a big role. I just had a meeting with Matt Metcalf. He's now working for Mojo. And they were showing us their product that's going to launch here next week. I do have a question on the other side of the break about new criteria for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I know your good friend Jason Whitlock sort of alluded to that, and I want to get Michael's take on, because obviously he wrote a book about it. Yep. Get Michael's take on what changes may be coming and have him explain that. But that'll be on the other side of the break.
Teasing the pressing three there, Michael. There we go. We got to chew on that in the next segment, Michael.
Mike, so update us on the contest, the Circa contest, the Survivor, the Millions, and how are things going in that?
Well, we started out like gangbusters in the Survivor. We were 35% ahead. As we turned the calendar into August, still pacing about 17% ahead. Now, we did 9,200 last year. We guaranteed 10, so we've got to be 9% ahead really to get there. Millions is a different story. Now, remember, 2 years ago, we guaranteed $6 million. We did roughly 4,700. Last year, almost 5,300. I think we're backsliding. I think we'll be right around 5,000. Just a prediction, but there'll definitely be an overlay. I think close to $1 million or more. We're pacing about 5% behind last year's numbers in the millions right now.
Yeah, no, I think that's the Millions and the Survivor. I cannot recommend it enough. That sign up in those things. And if you're from out of town, you can still sign up. You just got to come to Las Vegas to do the sign up, but then you can go ahead and get a proxy service. We recommend here at VSiN Winners Circle proxy service. Like, they do a terrific job for the Millions contest and all these contests that are out here. Sign up weekends August 22nd to the 24th. It's the 9th year that Winners Circle proxy has been in the proxy game and has been the trusted service of proxies, and including the 2023 Circa Survivor and Million contest winners. They use Winners Circle, so maybe get some good juju there and go ahead and hop on the Winner Circle train.
Great job, Femi. That felt very natural.
Hey, you know what? We got to get them in. You know what? They pay me to get them in. Damn it! All right, we got to do what you got to do. Preseason weekend. We have now with Bet Bash, NFL preseason games, our first full slate of them. Do you guys see an uptick in handle on these types of things? I know last year Bet Bash was around a similar time as well, but with the Bet Bash, a couple of weeks from now, we got the sign-up contest. I feel like all these bettors are coming out here. They're not just sit on their hands. They're going to be firing away. Like, do you guys see more handle with these preseason games with all these bettors in town?
I'll tell you more so on baseball with Bet Bash.
Okay.
These guys betting a lot of baseball. It's interesting with the preseason football, in that the Olympics are still going on. We get the 2 games tonight. What a big move, obviously, on the Patriots, all the way up to 6.5 here. But, just remember the limits are smaller, so it doesn't take as much to move a number when you got a $1,000 cap and you take a couple max bets, and then the numbers kind of gets like a runaway. As we get into the weekend and more of the slate of games, I'll be interested to see how the handle compares year over year when you didn't have the Olympics to compete with.
Mike, how do you, and I know you do a great job of handicapping games and you have a great feel for it, how have you used the preseason to help you with your handicap?
I kind of just get a look at some of the backup people that are going to be skill position players. It gives me a better idea. I don't focus on it a lot. I rarely make a bet, except there's some cases where just some teams like Baltimore want to win and others don't care at all. It's kind of baked into the number, but I don't know if they can ever get the number that far. I know some guys like Chuck Edel, who goes on Follow the Money every year during this time of year, a professional bettor. I mean, he specializes in it. He's so good with this preseason stuff. it's tougher now, and we talked about this a little bit last week, Michael, is the more they shorten it and the less people play as a tool for coaches to evaluate, and I think that's the same for bettors. I think it becomes harder and harder because you're rarely seeing guys play with who they're going to play with or against guys who they're going to play against in those situations. But it does give you a look at the speed of the game a little bit, especially for some of these quarterbacks and some of these skilled position players.
Yeah, I think another concern, too, on the East Coast with hurricanes and stuff like that is obviously football is a very low on the priority list. When we talk about hurricanes, obviously hope everybody can be safe with these kind of tropical storms that we have hitting us around this time every single year. But from a betting standpoint, like, the game still has to be played 55 minutes. Like, and they could call these games at any moment. Does that make it a little bit more of a headache for you guys on this end of the behind the window? Just thinking like, hey, at any point, bettors could be in good, but ultimately, if it's not played for 55 games, the bet's null and void.
Well, we hate refunding bets, Femi, and we had to do that with the Hall of Fame game. We changed our rule in Major League Baseball this year. It used to be, and traditionally everybody did this, if you didn't play 8.5/9 innings, depending on if the home team was ahead, totals and run line bets were off. If it was a shortened official game, we changed that this year. 5 innings completed, rained out. We pay the total and we pay the run lines based on what the final score was because it's an official game. Now in the NFL, it's 55 minutes. You can't really, you're going to pay on a game that's not official. But I wonder, somebody brought this up smarter than I am. Maybe in these preseason games where there's no drive to finish the game, it's not counting towards standings and things like that, stats and players' contracts. I wonder if the NFL would go away with what is an official game and allow sports books to book the results, let's just say as long as they've played a half or as long as it would save the headache. I mean, people who bet the over, there's no way you shouldn't get paid.
That's
right.
Tough.
It's just not right.
Mike, the other night, the over in the Hall of Fame game hit, and you should have. That should have. I mean, them playing more wasn't going to lower the over. I mean, that didn't make any sense, right? I mean, let's play some more to see if we get this over down to below. Like, see if the people who bet the under could win. No, I mean, they over hit, you should pay it. But I think sometimes what fans don't understand is there's a sense of urgency by some, especially in week 3. Let's just get this game over. Let's run the ball. Let's get the game. Let's get that clock moving as fast as we can so that we can get out of here, get on the plane, and get going on week 1.
You can see that in the play calling, and that's why it's interesting in games sometimes. And it's built in very low second half totals, right? Because nobody wants to get hurt; they want to get the game over. But you'll see, in preseason, one score or scoreless second halves quite often, as teams are just. The bus is warmed up, and let's move on without injury.
Yeah, get the hell out of here and get out of here without injury. Before we head to break here, this Brandon Aiyuk situation, what do you think of it? Where does he end up?
Who's ever going to pay him? I think for him, it's all about the money. This is his first big contract, right?
He turned down New England's money, so it's all about the money from the right team. That's what it is, but it could change.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, allegedly it was 4 years, $128 million. I think that's what Mike Reese, who's covered the Patriots for a long time, that's the number that he threw out there.
Michael, would you make Pittsburgh the favorite right now?
I don't think Pittsburgh's paying. Tom Curran said it was 32. I think it was more over 30 for them. If New England wanted them, they had to pay over 28. There's no way they were going to get him for that.
Well, Palms pressing 3 to wrap up the show next here on the Lombardi Line.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Femi Abebefe, on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Pressing? Yes, I say it's pressing.
This is Palms Pressing 3.
My mother told me never to answer a question with a question.
Sir, my client has answered every question asked by this committee with the utmost sincerity.
Welcome back. This is the Lombardi Line. Femi Abebefe, Michael Lombardi. Before we get to Palms Pressing 3, we are happy to report that in hour number 1, Mike Somich gave out horse number 3 in the Saratoga race number 2, Legitimize. Got to the winner's circle. So Legitimize won. So always good when we get an in-show winner on the show.
Love
so
it.
Shout out to our guy Mike Somich giving us some winners.
Go Mike Somich. He gets to come back next week. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, he gets to come back and he gets to have lunch. Mike Palm?
Last time I got a tip, I was a junior at Hofstra. And we had a guy that was working in a deli, and he was one of our football players, and he came into the Rat that afternoon and said, I just got this tip. Her magical self's going to win the 9th race over at Belmont. We ran to the OTB. Mike, do you remember the OTBs in New York? You could do that, right? And so we put all the money we had, all the beer money we had that weekend on that horse. That horse is still running. So God bless Mike Somich.
What'd the horse pay, Femi? Do you have the full story here, or half a story? All right, let's get.
It wasn't the favorite, but I can tell you that.
Oh, that's nice. All right, let's get to the pressing tree, Michael. Question one, as I alluded to for the break, there was a tweet last weekend when they had the Hall of Fame inductions from Femi's good friend Jason Whitlock, who talked about, and you retweeted it or you commented on it. I saw it on Twitter. That's how I saw it because of you, Michael. About redefining the criteria for the Hall of Fame. So my question is, Michael, explain what that's all about and how it will change.
Well, I think the problem is, Mike, we listen to a lot of people talk about coaches on the network, right? Pete Carroll's not a good coach. Well, when you examine Pete Carroll's record, it's fairly good and he won a Super Bowl. Mike McCarthy's a horrible coach. Really good record, won a Super Bowl. What's the criteria to get in the Hall of Fame? Weeb Ewbank's a 500 coach, won a Super Bowl. He's in the Hall of Fame. Okay, is Weeb Ewbank better than Mike McCarthy? The numbers don't say he is, but he's in the Hall of Fame. Now, he won the greatest game of all, but that's beside the point, right? George Allen's in the Hall of Fame, never won a Super Bowl. Marty Schottenheimer's one of 9 coaches who've won 200 games, can't even get a vote to get in the Hall of Fame, yet George Allen's in and never won a Super Bowl. So there's all the variables, and everything is subjective. There's no organization, there's no system in place. And I really believe there has to be a system in place. Tony Baselli's had Hall of Fame years. I don't believe he had a Hall of Fame career because he didn't play long enough. Terrell Davis, they said, did play long enough, but they say Sterling Sharp didn't. How do you make that difference? Sterling Sharp was one of the best receivers in football without a quarterback. It's a little bit like, okay, today, Brandon Aiyuk wants to make way more than DJ Moore. DJ Moore's never had a good quarterback. And yet he's had 4 1,000-yard seasons in his NFL career. He makes $27.5 million. He's not complaining. He's taking the check home. He's happy. But, Brandon Aiyuk's not playing with those. Would he have those same numbers as DJ Moore? I don't know. I think it's a fair conversation, one we ought to have. But he's certainly not as good as Tyreek Hill or J.J. or Jefferson. So you can't be up in that category. At some point, you have to evaluate. So you need a criteria. Everything needs to have a criteria. And so I think that's really important, and that's something that the Hall of Fame has ignored because they rather have it as a debate. They rather get in that room and have somebody argue for their player and speak the loudest. Bobby Beathard's in the Hall of Fame as a general manager. Okay, great. Joe Gibbs won a lot of Super Bowls with Bobby Beathard. Does he belong in the Hall of Fame? I think it's worth a conversation. George Young's in there. But why isn't Mike Holloway in the Hall of Fame? Mike Holloway built the greatest team. I'll argue this with anybody. The Houston Oilers are one of the greatest teams. Jack Vanese, who built the Packers teams, didn't have the title of general manager. That poor guy can't even get on the wall of Green Bay, of the Wall of Fame up there. And yet Lombardi in 1960, when he landed back at Green Bay after winning their first Western Conference championship, said, we would not be here without the work of Jack Vanese. He had passed away earlier that year for a heart attack. So, if you don't have a criteria, you have nothing. Here's the most important thing about understanding anything we do here at our network. This is really important, whether you're scouting or whether you're handicapping games. The number one criteria is elimination. If you can't eliminate, you're never going to be very good. And so every week when you get your sheet, you got to eliminate certain games for whatever reason you do. Now, there should be good reasons to eliminate. But when you eliminate, you have a criteria. And your criteria could be, look, I'm not betting against Pittsburgh after they lose, or I'm not doing this. Those are really all important things. And I think, to me, that's what we miss in the Hall of Fame selection, and it's important in betting.
Michael, question 2. My future bets this year are on the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm starting to become a little more concerned with Joe Burrow's injury. The longer I see Carlos Correa out for the Minnesota Twins, who has the same injury. Which quarterback's injury heading into this season, and you could obviously choose Burrow, you could choose Herbert, you could choose the mysterious ailments of Lamar Jackson from any list. Which quarterback's injury is most concerning to you heading into week 1?
I think it's Burrow, Mike. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think in talking to people that have watched Burrow throw the ball, it doesn't come off his hand as well as it have. The fact that Zach Taylor's going to play him in preseason delights me because now I can watch for myself. I try to stay away from the evaluation of others during preseason. I try to stay away from the hyperbole that we read on the Worldwide Leader or what's going on. I'd rather see it for myself. I'll watch all the preseason games as closely as I possibly can, and I look forward to it. But I'm more worried. I'm not worried about Herbert because I'm not a doctor, but when you don't work on the plantar fascia, when you don't inject it, it becomes a lot easier to manage. So I'm not as worried about him. I'm worried about the ball coming off of Burrow's arm and looking effective. I'm worried about Kirk Cousins when he has to plant and drive in a tight pocket. I'm worried about Aaron Rodgers, too. I haven't seen enough. See, the game isn't fast in practice, but the game gets fast in the games.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, they said, is not practicing today on that wet, soggy field out there at Jets training camp at the joint practice they have with the Commanders. So it's a little bit of a concern as he's 4 years old coming off the Achilles.
Michael, question 3, we talked a couple weeks ago about the first coach to be fired market. And a name keeps popping into my head that's more of a long shot, but I think it's a very distinct possibility. You're there close to the Philadelphia market in New Jersey. There were many reports that Nick Sirianni lost that team during that last, 7-8 games and wild card game last year. Philadelphia gets off to a rotten start this season. And knowing the fickleness of the Philadelphia fan base and media, isn't Sirianni a candidate to be the first coach fired?
I think what that article indicated, they were interested in Belichick. And so let's just play that out, your theory. If they fire Nick and they hire the great Kellen Moore, Joystick himself, and he wins 8 in a row, they're going to have to hire Joystick as their head coach, and they're not going to be able to hire Belichick. Do you want to do that? I think you have to second order think the firing. If the season's over, do you really think it could matter? Now, if you feel like, look, if we make this change, we're going to win, okay. But you and I both know oftentimes there's only been 4 interim coaches who have gone on to have modest success, and the Clapper's one of them, Jason Garrett. So I don't see it as a smart play. You know, maybe you put Vic Fangio in charge knowing he won't be the head coach no matter what happens because that's not what he wants to do. But I think, to me, that's the key.
Are you as bullish, Mike, on the Eagles as the market tends to be? Because they're minus 110 now. They become like the definitive favorite pretty much everywhere in that division.
I think that the AFC West and NFC East, you can bet the exact order of finishes. I think it's Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders, Giants, and it's Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, Broncos. I think those are the most 2 delineated divisions. Now, I heard Mitch and Paul this morning talking about, plus 550 Eagles to be the 1 seed in the NFC. That might be a bridge too far.
It feels like Detroit to me.
Teams in the North beat each other up a little bit. Can the Bears and Vikings steal a game from the Packers and the Lions in the course of the season? I don't know, but I just don't know what the Cowboys did to get better. And Dak's going to get paid probably by somebody else, but he's going to get paid having never won anything.
Yeah, two playoff victories is what he has to his resume, and a second place MVP finish last year for Dak Prescott, who's coming off the best season.
He's a great front runner, Femi. He falls behind in a game, like in the playoffs, like in Arizona in Week 3 when you get down 10, and he's never able to lead them back in tough situations. He's not able to convert in the red zone. He's not able to string scores together. He's just never been able to do that.
No arguments from me.
No well, Femi was down there to correct some things, Mike. You're ruling out Femi's presence at Thousand Oaks last week, Mike. You're not giving him enough
I had the
credit.
fedora on for the late Tom Landry. I was out there. I had him in shape. As Michael Parsons had a better second day than the first day when I was there. But we don't have to get into all of that. That does it for this edition of the Lombardi Line. Thank you to Mike Palm, for Michael Lombardi, for our producer Elliot Bowman, behind the glass, our entire crew. I'm Femi Benfe saying good luck with all the bets. Sharp Money's coming up next year on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We are a network of sports